We are streaming.
We are streaming and we are getting ready to go live.
Getting ready to go. I mean, we are live, but we're technically getting ready with the starting soon screen.
I love it. It's peak production quality. Production team really on
I,
their P's and Q's.
I wouldn't say it's peak, but it is something.
Hey, look at that. 16 team playoff coming to college football. How it impacts the Vols. That's us, baby. We are live.
All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Folks, what is up? And welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. You're here with Austin and you're here with Blake. That is me. I am Blake and that is Austin, my brother. And we are here to talk all things volunteer sports. Today, Austin, we have got a few topics to cover. We're going to start with college football. We're going to start with a topic that's kind of going to affect all of college football, but we're going to talk specifically how it affects the Vols, which is this crazy talk about an expanded playoff. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And we got an update on one of our favorite players in this modern era. And then, of course, our sovereign duty to
Covering our
cover
baseballs.
the baseballs. But Austin, talk to me about how you feeling about these topics tonight, other than the baseballs.
Oh man, it's gonna be outside of Brew. I mean, I guess Brew's retirement's not great either. It's gonna be kind of a grim night. I hate to say it. I don't have a lot of good things to say about the expanded playoff, but we'll get into it later. It is an interesting topic though. Getting into it and seeing how it's going to impact us and all of college football. So excited to get into it.
Yeah, it's going to be that's going to be a fun discussion, even though, like you said, it's kind of most of tonight is not going to be exactly the best of things to talk about. But hey, listen, folks, again, it is our sovereign duty to cover all things volunteer sports. That's what we do for you guys. And look, as always, please take a moment, if you haven't already, to go ahead and hit like on the video. Go ahead and drop us a sub if you haven't subscribed to the channel, or followed us on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify a day later. We would really appreciate it. It really helps the channel. We've been growing like crazy lately, and man, it's a fun ride, honestly, to be on this thing with you guys and to grow this channel with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. Everyone jumping in the chat and just interacting with our videos. It's good stuff. It's fun to hang out with fellow Vols fans, Austin.
Agreed, man.
But tonight we must talk about a few things that aren't the best. And we're going to start with this expanded college football playoff. I'm going to let you kind of give us the full details, but basically, for those who may not be aware yet, news reports are coming. I mean, we've been hearing about an expanded playoff for a while, right, Austin? But now we're starting to get these kind of actual reports giving us details on what this expanded playoff might look like, and it seems to be coming closer to fruition. And it sounds, Austin, if I'm not mistaken, it sounds like the SEC and the Big Ten are leading the charge and maybe trying to cop some more money for themselves.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, kind of as always, SEC and Big Ten are leading the charge here in this playoff discussion. Just to let everyone in on it, if you don't know, the current 12-team playoff was only under contract for 2 years, and that ends after this season. So the playoff format is going to change no matter what after this season. They might end up keeping the same format, but I highly doubt it. That's definitely leaning towards expansion. And the latest report from Ross Dellinger is that a 16-team college football playoff bracket is gaining support with the Big Ten and SEC, which is interesting. We'll get into why it could be gaining support for the SEC and Big Ten. But the format would look like this with 16 teams. It would be 4 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams, 2 ACC teams, 2 Big 12 teams, 1 group of 6 team, and 3 at-large bids for the expanded playoff. On top of the expanded playoff,
this is where it gets crazy.
Yeah, all of it's a little crazy, but like to your point, Blake, this is really nuts. So there would be play-in games for the SEC and Big Ten. So what that basically means is the third highest rated or highest, seeded, whatever, SEC team would play the sixth highest SEC team, and then the fourth highest would play the fifth highest, and basically those play-in games would determine whether that team gets into the college football playoff or not. That to me is pretty insane. And just to touch on how that would impact us, that we would have had to play a play-in game this year in that new format, Blake. Just where we were ranked, we didn't make it to the SEC championship game, so we would have had to have played a play-in game. Most likely, I just looked at the standings; it would have been against Ole Miss, who was a pretty solid team last year, and for us to make the playoffs, we would have had to beat Ole Miss, which is basically another playoff game. Um, I just listen, man. My first thoughts on all this is I just don't like it. I don't like it, man. I think we saw last year that 12 teams was too many. Like really, there's only about eight, I think, teams per year that have a legitimate chance to win a national championship. Um, that's truly how I feel about it. There's like eight teams per year that have a real
Right.
chance to win it. We saw it last year, man. I mean, the lower rated teams, the lower seeded teams last season got destroyed. I mean, case in point, us. I hate to say that, but like we really weren't competitive enough last year to win a national championship. So
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I just don't see how 16 teams makes that better, dude. I just don't. I don't see how adding four more teams helps college football. To me, it just helps people, kind of to your point to start off the conversation, Blake. It helps people in these conferences make more money at the end of the day, man. I think it's mostly about money. It's not actually about what's best for the sport. And that's just the reality of it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's, it's definitely look, at the end of the day, expanding to 16 teams is crazy to me because honestly, I thought 12 was too many. I thought 6 or 8 would have been a great sweet spot for the college football playoff. Kind of like you were just saying, the top 8 teams really are the ones in the running. Outside of that, I mean, just look at our situation last year compared to Ohio State, the eventual national championship winner, and the talent gap was obvious. Now, I think we were still one of the best teams in the country, probably one of the best top 10 teams in the country, but obviously, not in a position to compete for a national championship. So, yeah, we're gonna dig into more of how this might affect the Vols. I just want to say real quick, folks. Again, thank you all for joining us. Please jump in the chat. However, do not be like Mike Hoochie, which obviously is a tip off to being a troll. And then he's also clearly showing that he is not an actual Vols fan because he says, "We are screwed without Nico. I'm very worried." Very, very clearly. I don't know. I think it. I think he's trying to stoke some fires here. So we're gonna let him hang out in the chat. He says things like, "We need Phil Fulmer back," and then he makes a rather uncouth comment regarding Mother's Day and the late Pat Summit. So we'll let Mike hang out for a little bit in the chat. But folks, if there's any Vols fans in here who want to join the chat with us and talk about what your thoughts are on the expanded college football playoff, let us know. Let us know what you think. So Austin just laid out for us that this expanded playoff would be essentially it would have this play-in element and obviously certain bids for each conference, which Austin, with last year we saw that the uh, teams like Boise State, that are outside of the Power Four now, obviously they're not competitive, right? They're not in a position to really actually compete with these bigger schools. I'm okay with giving them, a spot as long as it is earned in the rankings, right? Not I don't really like automatic bids, but to me, man, just having this number of automatic bids for each conference, I don't know that it doesn't seem like it just seems like a money grab.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely what it is because I think what's best for the sport is a more competitive playoff, and that leads to a true national champion. But with 16 teams, like we just said, dude, I mean, with mean, the 12 teams weren't competitive last year. 12 was too many. I think 8 really is probably a sweet spot for college football. Um, and yeah, I mean, listen, the group of six thing, it's like if you're gonna have 16 teams, then sure. Like, sure, give the group of six a chance at a playoff, like whatever. But to me, I don't know, man. Like, why? Why? Like, they don't have an actual chance. You know, we saw it with, I mean, Boise State was a really good team last year, and they played Penn State and weren't very competitive. I mean, it just wasn't a very competitive ball game. Um, and it's also another interesting topic of conversation is like what they're going to do with Notre Dame and all this, because Notre Dame's still not in a conference. So like, how's all the seeding going to work out and stuff? Like, an undefeated Notre Dame team won't even get a bye week. If they didn't get I mean, they wouldn't have gotten a bye week in the 12 team format either. It's just, I don't know, man. It is a money grab. It's very obvious. And it's also, dude, going back to what the initial report is, oh, it's gaining support with the Big Ten and SEC. I wonder why. I wonder why it would be gaining support with the SEC and the Big Ten when they are literally half the format. They literally take up half the automatic bids. So of course it's gaining support with the SEC and the Big Ten. It's so obvious why that would be the case. So I just thought that was kind of funny. Like, they're literally the ones making the format, bringing it to people. Oh, and by the way, we support the format. Well, no shit, you support the format, dude. You made the format and you take up half the format. So, yeah, dude, again, these people don't really care about what's best for the sport. They care about what's best for their pockets. And it's been the case for a very long time, man.
Yeah, and it's very obvious, and it still sucks because even though we're in the SEC, right, and there's benefits to that or whatever. This kind of goes back to a few years ago, Austin, when this movement gained steam of people cheering for the SEC. It's SEC. And I've always been an old head. Okay, I'm like, I don't give a damn about other teams in the SEC. I really don't. In fact, I don't want them to win. I'm not going to cheer for the SEC unless it's Tennessee. And now we get to this situation where the SEC and the Big Ten, it almost seems like they're bullying the rest of college football because they hold most of the power right now, right? If not all of the power between the Big Ten and the SEC, they hold the power. And so it almost seems like bullying to me. I don't know. Is that a bad take?
No, I don't know if it's. Listen, I think it's actually fair for the SEC and the Big Ten to have most of the automatic bids. The problem is automatic bids in general as a concept. That's the true problem with this. It's not. I think it would make total sense. I think it would make total sense. Blake's getting caught up with the trolls in the chat, man. You gotta let it roll off your back, brother. We're talking expanded playoff here. But I think it would make total sense why the best conferences get the most teams. That makes sense to me. It's just, to me, you don't need 16 teams because it's not going to be competitive. And the play-in games are insane. Like, they have to cut games somewhere, right? Like, you're making teams play so much now. They're not used to these like 16, 17 game schedules. You have to basically win a playoff game just to make the playoffs if you're the third best team in the SEC. I think that's a terrible idea, first of all. I think that's an absolute terrible idea because this group of five, the group of six team doesn't have to play in a play-in game, Blake. Or the ACC teams don't have to play a play-in game, but you're hurting the third best team in the SEC by making them play a play-in game when they're obviously, if there's 16 teams in the playoffs, Blake, it's so obvious that third best team in the SEC deserves a chance at a national championship. So they're just getting goofy with it, man. It's all to just make as many playoff games as humanly possible so they can extract as much cash out of the sport as humanly possible. And it's hurting the sport, man. It would hurt. Like, I just think it's that concept of, okay, the third best team in the SEC is not going to make the playoffs, but the group of six teams going to make the playoffs, or you know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense, man. Especially when most of these teams are not going to be competitive. I mean, the ACC barely scraped in one team last year in Clemson. It was the 12th seed. So why would we give the ACC two teams? That just doesn't. It just doesn't make sense, man. They don't really care about they don't care about the games either, because the more teams in the playoffs, Blake, the worse the playoff games are going to be. The more blowouts you're going to see, like everything, man. That's just the reality of the situation, dude. So yeah, man, it's just like you got to think about what's best for the sport, and nobody right now, it seems like, in college football is doing that. And like you said, the Big Ten, the SEC hold all the power. They hold all the power. They hold all the chips because they do have all the best teams. They have all the big brands, and they win everything. So it is hurt. I mean, I don't know. I would say it's hurting other conferences. Yet this is the only possible chance of the ACC or the Big 12 getting teams into like a playoff format. So maybe it's actually helping those teams, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, and well, first, before I get into my little spiel here, I want to say, for the record, wasn't getting caught up with the trolls. I was thanking Girth Brooks. He hopped in here and he's viewing the show, so I wanted to say thanks to him for giving the channel support. But obviously, we've got some folks being goofy in the chat here, but we appreciate Lynn joining us. Lynn has become a supporter of the channel, so we really appreciate you being here, Lynn. Glad to see you tonight. And Lynn says everything's about the money now, and I think that's spot on. That's kind of what we're talking about right now, Austin, right? Is this being about the money? And I want to talk about the fact that who loses in all of this is the fans, okay? Because we've got a situation right now with the NIL and transfer portal where players are, it's the wild, wild west for them, and they're trying to get as much money as they possibly can. And again, obviously, anyone's going to try to get money when they can, right? The problem is that there's no structure, and it ends up hurting the players in the long run. But you've got players who are cashing in, and then now you've got these executives of the Big Ten and the SEC and whoever else who are, again, like you said, just trying to create a situation to create as many playoffs as possible and get as much money as possible. And it sucks because the whole point was that bowl games were a joke, and we wanted to get a playoff so that we could determine a true national champion. And now the playoffs are simply becoming like bowl games again, to where it's just about trying to generate all this, crazy revenue, because they're like, oh man, these playoffs, they get great revenue. So let's create more to generate more revenue. And who loses in all of this, in my opinion, is the fan, because
I agree.
the sport is degraded in multiple ways.
I agree. The fan loses, dude, because these playoff games aren't going to be competitive. And fans of teams that are more deserving of national champions, like the Big Ten teams and the SEC teams that have to play in these play-in games, are going to be hurt by it when their team loses to a much more competitive team than the other automatic bids in the playoff, like the Big 12 teams or the ACC teams or the Group of 6 team. Like, those teams are fundamentally less competitive than the 3 through 6 in the Big 10 and SEC. And so those fan bases are going to be hurt when those teams don't even have a chance to play in the playoffs, because they have to play an additional conference game just to get an opportunity to make the playoff. So yeah, I mean, fans are going to hurt from this. There's going to be less competitive games. I mean, the 16th team, best team in the country versus the number 1 team in the country, or top 4 in the country, that game is typically not competitive, dude. It's typically an uncompetitive matchup, most of the time. And listen, I'm all for the playoff, man. One thing I've been seeing pushback, there's not a lot of support from the fans for this. I'm not seeing any fans come out and say, "Oh, I'm amped about more playoff teams." I'm not seeing that. But what I am seeing is people yearning for the BCS days again. And I'm going to push back on that, because the BCS days were not, giving only 2 teams an opportunity to win a national championship is ludicrous. I mean, it's ludicrous. I don't think that was the way to do it. I never thought that was the way to do it. I mean, case in point, last year, Ohio State. Ohio State loses a tough game to their rival Michigan, and they have 2 losses on their resume. They get an opportunity, as they should, to play in the playoffs, because that's one of the best 8 teams in the country. And they go on this crazy run, blowing out everyone, blew us out, blew Oregon out, and go on to win a national championship. That makes sense to me. That makes sense. But what doesn't make sense to me is having a 3 or 4 loss Big 12 team in this 16 team playoff be thrown into with like all these SEC teams who've played in the toughest conference all year, who have, you know, 2 or 3 losses. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me, man. It doesn't. I just don't like the automatic bids, and I don't like the number we're getting to. 16 is just way too many. We only had 12 for a year before they already started talking about, okay, we need more. We need more teams, and no one's ever given an argument, Blake, why it's good for the sport either. That's one thing that kills me.
Right.
They never actually tell you this is why we're doing it, because if they told you that, then everyone would realize it's all about money, because that's the
The gig
only reason they're doing it. It's literally the sole reason they're doing it.
the gig would be up if
Yeah.
they had to explain it because they couldn't explain it. And not they would look like buffoons if they tried to come up with a legitimate reason as to why it's good for the sport. And yeah, the gig would be up. Everyone would, and everyone already knows, right? It's like we're kind of pretending. But man, it's rough because again, it's like we needed the playoff, and we got the playoff, and yeah, maybe four was too many, or I'm sorry, four was too few, but then it just like the pendulum just can't. It's like the pendulum's just swinging every which way, and it can't land in a good sweet spot, and it's frustrating. Um, and look, I'll say this too. Okay, the I'm an old head when it comes to football, right? I'm I'm not that old, but when it comes to college football, I'm an old head. Okay, might as well be a freaking boomer. All right, and I am fond of the BCS days. Now, I 1000% agree with you that it's not the best system to determine the true best team in the country because just given two teams is obviously. I mean, there were plenty of years, even in the BCS years, where there was like for instance the year Auburn got left out.
Yep.
It's
Exactly.
like you obviously can't just do two teams. Now we may have been onto something with having a little bit of computer calculation into the best teams because we see that there is obviously always going to be human bias that can throw a wrench into things. But my point is the BCS era, as fond of it as I am, and the fact that Tennessee won the very first BCS national championship, really, some might at least the BCS was more legitimate than the national champions declaration before, right? Where it was just people just claimed national champions based on polls and stuff like that. It was a little bit more legitimate than that,
No
at
doubt.
least. And so Tennessee won the first, in my eyes, I like to say the first legitimate national championship in college football, right? So I'm fond of that. But again, the pendulum just it's like okay, obviously the BCS is flawed because it's only two teams. We need a playoff. Okay, well here's a playoff. Here's four teams of a playoff. You know what, Austin? Honestly, I'm gonna say this. I think four might have been closer to the sweet spot than 16. I mean that I think staying at four to me would have been better for the sport than swinging so far on this pendulum all the way to where okay we hit 12. That's obviously already too many in my opinion, but then 16, who actually thinks 16 teams need to be in the playoff? Like you're saying, to your point, please explain how it's good.
Yeah,
I
they don't
mean,
have an explanation for it. I mean, like, there is a sweet spot though. Like, the sweet spot is eight. I think we just kind of saw that last year. I think 8 teams makes a ton of sense. But they'll never go that way, man. It's gonna stay. It's probably gonna go to 16 and stay at 16 if I had to guess, man. That's kind of my prediction on this. Um, and listen, it's going to be fun. Like, there's going to be fun matchups and fun games, but you're going to see a lot of playoff games, dude, where 3 score victories. Like, some of them are going to get ugly. And one thing I hope, dude, is that they get rid of this whole idea of a playing game. Like, I think that's ridiculous. You're basically just helping the one team that's like left out of this in a way, or the two teams that are left out. To me, and you don't even really need to do it, because like are they still going to get an opportunity for the 3 at large bids, like the teams that lose? It's just like don't confuse everyone with this. Just like they have the three large bids. If they're not one of the four best teams in the conference, they don't get in. Just like let's just cut it off there. You don't need to do this playing game, man. The playing game is one of my biggest issues with it. Outside of, like I said, the expansion itself. Also, like I'm just kind of there's some frustration because it feels like there's some people like taking victory laps, like, oh man, like I told you all when we expanded it, it's gonna get expanded again, and they're just gonna not stop. It's like, well, dude, like if there was legitimate leadership in college football, someone would come in and say, yeah, I think we need more than definitely need more than two. We definitely need less than 12. And we've already had four, and four seemed like it wasn't enough. Let's say eight. Like eight seems good. Like if there was actual leadership in college football, that could happen. But since there's just people that are looking to make more money, it's going to be 16. And then you have people, a whole generation of people, some people that didn't even grow up watching the BCS air, saying that the BCS was better for the sport, which it just wasn't. I mean, like you just brought up the 2003 Auburn team who went undefeated SEC champions, and didn't have an opportunity to play for a national championship. That's wrong, but it's not as wrong, but it's close to as wrong as a 16 overall team, group of 6 team that has 2 losses on their resume getting a chance to play for a national championship as well, which equally makes as little sense. So I think there is a sweet spot, man, and unfortunately no one's gonna try the sweet spot because that's just like the state of the sport right now.
Yeah, once you open Pandora's box, I don't think we're going to be able to put it back in,
Yes,
unfortunately. I think you're
agreed.
right. I don't think we're going to be able to go back. And so someone, please God, has got to put their foot down and say, "Okay, we're stop. Enough is enough." And I totally agree with you about this play-in game idea is just crazy. And so I hope someone steps in and does that. But obviously, these conferences, especially the SEC and the Big Ten, are trying to get their piece of the pie, and they're trying to vie for power, and at the end of the day, they're trying to get their money, just like the players are trying to get their money, and all these people are just college football is just all about money now, and then here the fans are, and we're left with a lesser product, unfortunately. So, in terms of the Vols, though, look, obviously it gives us more teams being in the playoff gives us more of a chance to get into the playoffs. But I would, I don't know. It's a tough conversation. Obviously, I want to be in the playoffs, but I also want to be competitive in the playoffs and not get blown out by, even though it's the eventual national champion, get blown out by Ohio State. I don't know. We'll see. At the end of the day, it is what it is. We 2 guys on the podcast can't change anything.
Definitely
But
not.
we can definitely rant about it, though. I'll tell you that. Folks, if you're just joining us, thank you all so much for joining us on this live episode. We have been discussing the expanded college football playoff. We're seeing reports that it is, as Austin said earlier, gaining steam, especially among the SEC and Big Ten. I wonder why. Maybe it's because it vastly benefits them. But we've been talking about that, the expanded playoff, and how it impacts us and as fans and the Vols. And we're going to get into some baseball review here in a little bit. But if you haven't already, folks, again, please drop us a like on the video. Join in chat. Chat's been a little quiet tonight. We're starting a little later than we normally would. We appreciate y'all still joining, even though it's kind of late on a Sunday night. I don't know about y'all. I've got the Sunday scaries, so we appreciate you joining and hanging out with Vol Talk here. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the chat. If you're watching after the live stream, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think about this expanded playoff. Is it good for football? Is it bad for college football? We'll see. We will see. Austin, I do have a theory. We have had a few trolls in the chat tonight. They're kind of streaming through with different kind of goofy names and things like that. Do you think it could be Richie?
Oh, it's
Do you
definitely
think?
Richie.
I
Richie's definitely lurking, which is hilarious. Shout out to Richie, our biggest fan. Appreciate it, man. It's definitely Richie, but yeah, it's been pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, but
He,
yeah,
I think Richie outed himself when he kept talking about the Big Ten beating us and
oh
Ohio State
yeah,
beating us.
100%. It's for sure Richie, and it's eating him up right now too. He's making another burner as we speak. Can't wait to see you again in the chat, Richie.
Man, Richie is definitely our biggest fan. For those of you who don't know, if you're watching after the live stream or if you're new to the Vault Talk channel, when we first started live streaming regularly, we had Richie jump in the chat, and he was an Ohio State fan, and things started out cordial, and then for some reason, Richie started resorting to personal attacks, and so we decided to, get Richie's chats out of there because look, we accept all fans. Austin always says this. If you're a fan of another team, welcome. We would love to have a discussion with you, even if it's a lively discussion, even if it's you don't like the Vols, and we get into a heated discussion. That's fine. What's not cool is personal attacks. Obviously, Richie resorted to that, but now it seems as though Richie has become obsessed with the Vol Talk channel.
Obsessed. I love it.
So we do appreciate the support, Richie, and all the other trolls who might join the chat. But most of you aren't trolls. For instance, Lynn and other supporters of the channel who help us in chat there. So we really appreciate you guys, and everyone watching after the live stream as well.
Yep.
Again, we've had huge growth, so we really appreciate you guys. Austin, let us transition to another topic that is bittersweet. It's not. It is kind of sad. So, like we warned folks at the top of the episode, it's not going to be a super cheery, optimistic episode. But this one is bittersweet, right? It's not it's kind of sad, but also I'm going to remember this player fondly, and that's Brew
Agreed.
McCoy. And Brew McCoy, it was looking like he might get drafted, and then he just missed getting drafted, at least according to the big boards, right? And then I think it's been probably a few days now, and he has announced that he is medically retiring from the sport of football. And I'll tell you this, man, if there is any definition of a VFL, it's Brew McCoy. Brew McCoy is a guy, and honestly, Austin, I'll pose this to you, and I'll see what your thoughts are. I think Brew McCoy is the definition of what a VFL can look like in the transfer era, this transfer portal era, right? Because Brew McCoy transferred in. He didn't initially start his career at UT, but he transferred in and he embraced being a Vol, right? And he grew and developed as a Vol. And the coaching staff put him in a position to be drafted, which was great. But he embraced everything volunteer sports, everything volunteer football. And man, I will always remember his final catches in the final moments of 2022 Alabama. So in my book, he's a VFL man, and he's a great.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It is a bit of a sad story. 5-star coming out of high school, had a ton of potential. Goes to USC, transfers to Tennessee. Was really good. He was really good here. Then has the major leg injury. Comes back from that. Fights back from that. Which was, I mean, just showed his grit, dude. I mean, that leg injury was gruesome, and the time in which he came back from it, and the fact that he never lost his dog mentality on the field after that injury, man. I could have seen a scenario where you have that kind of gruesome leg injury and you just don't play as hard because you're worried about hurting it again. That was never the case with Brew. He looked like the same exact Brew McCoy when he came back from that injury. And then he continued to have a solid career after that as well. And like you said, dude, just great representative for Tennessee. A legend, forever a legend for catching that final pass in the 2022 Alabama game to set us up in field goal range. Phenomenal catch, contested catch. Hendon just gave him a shot, and Brew made a play. And yeah, man, I think he probably would have gotten a chance in the league, but after that kind of injury, he wasn't as explosive after hurting his leg and things like that. And he's just, it's tough, man. Football's a brutal sport, and he's just kind of an example of that. But he's just fun to watch while he's here. One of the best run blocking wide receivers, or yeah, just blocking in general, wide receivers, not just run blocking, also on wide receiver screens and things like of that nature. So yeah, great career here. Legend for the Alabama game forever. And yeah, dude, VFL.
Absolutely. He gave me vibes of we've talked about this before of Juwan Jennings, right? Just had that dog in him, and he was a hard player, hard receiver. I mean, you don't see a ton of receivers like that anymore that just play physical like he played. Just real, and that final catch in the Alabama game was just an incredibly physical catch, right? He was just a guy he had that dog in him, and like you said, he was a lot of fun to play. And of course, I am a Brew McCoy fan, not just because of him being a great volunteer receiver at wide receiver U, but I'm also a huge fan of Brew McCoy because he was a sponsor, or he was a spokesman for Moonshine
Moonshine
Mountain
could.
Cookies.
I
Moonshine
knew
Mountain
you were gonna
Cookies.
go there.
And we are hoping to one day have a sponsorship from Moonshine Mountain Cookies on this podcast.
I mean, that's one thing though. It just kind of speaks to Brew, man. Like he was from California, right? He didn't grow up here, but the fan base just embraced him, dude. And now he thinks Knoxville, or he feels like Knoxville's his home forever, which is amazing, man. Like, and that's just speaks to him and speaks to our fan base and how. Listen, if you're loyal to us, like Brew McCoy was loyal to us, he gave his all for Tennessee every time he was on the field. He came back from that injury just to play for Tennessee, and we returned the favor, man. Like we are loyal to who is loyal to us, man, and that's just kind of Brew McCoy's story. And like you said, I mean, like he's he's not going to the Hall of Fame anytime soon, but he's just like a guy we'll never forget because of how he played, and again that legendary catch and his Moonshine Mountain Cookies. Um, but yeah,
But
dude, just
yeah,
absolute legend, man.
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up though. That his quote about he considers Knoxville home now, and that's how it goes, man. That's how it goes. When you come to Rocky Top, you can't help but to fall in love with it, baby. So, Brew, we appreciate everything. Look, man, maybe one day Brew will find the Vol Talk podcast. Who knows? Maybe we'll even get him on. We'll get him on an episode. I've been trying to get Austin to get Jarrett Garantano on an episode. He says he's willing to come on some shows, man. But we'll see. But Brew, we appreciate everything you've done for Tennessee. Awesome player for sure. He'll always be remembered as legendary player, legendary moment in the Alabama game for sure. Austin, we must now transition to the final segment of tonight's episode, which is, of course, our duty, not our pleasure. It is certainly not our pleasure, but it is in fact our duty to cover the baseball volunteers, and so we're going to cover them real quick. Shout out here to Rhonda in the chat. Rhonda is joining us here. She says, "Good evening. Bruce, absolutely 100% VFL. Totally respect how he worked through his injury.
No
Absolutely,
doubt.
Rhonda. Couldn't agree more." Lynn in there with the brew in the chat.
Love
So
it. I'll miss
love it.
that.
Love to see it. But yeah, we're going to transition now to the base Vols and continue in this slide, Austin.
Yep.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know what else to say other than it kind of
It
sucks right now.
hurts. It hurts,
Yeah,
man. It definitely hurts. We'll start with the good. Started off with Friday night, and you know what that means. We get to see the most electric player in the country, Liam Doyle, do his thing, and he once again did his thing. Let's see here, 7 shutout innings, if I'm not mistaken, from old Liam Doyle. Not surprising. That's what he does, man. Again, just one of the most electric players to watch in college baseball. The energy he brings and just, I mean, the stuff he brings, the pitches he brings is fantastic. In that game, I mean, dude, he ended with 12 Ks, only giving up 3 hits, 7 shutout innings. I mean, that's just phenomenal, dude. It's just it's seriously a blessing to be able to watch Liam Doyle on Friday nights. I mean, I said coming into the year, it's looking like we're not going to lose an SEC game on Friday nights. Now we have lost a few, not because of him, but anyway, he's just been phenomenal, dude. But Then we have to rely on our relievers, and that always makes you nervous, right? Like when that Liam throws 7 shutout innings, well, we only have 3 runs. It's like, are we gonna hold on to this lead? Who knows? And we started to let it slip, man. We started to let it slip, and if it weren't for
Great.
the great Hunter Ensley making the catch of the year, the defensive play of the year, Shades of Omaha, just what another legendary play on his record books. Saving a home run. Well, if it wasn't going to be a home run, it was at least going to be a stand-up double, dude. It was going to make us lose our lead and potentially lose this game on a Friday night where Liam Doyle once again goes out there and does everything he could to lead us to victory. But Hunter Ensley makes literally the catch of the year, man. Just a phenomenal catch, going up, high spotting the ball, making sure it doesn't leave the yard. And it was phenomenal, dude. It's what Hunter Ensley does. And it's never, the thing is about Hunter Ensley, dude, he makes plays like that all throughout the game. But doesn't it feel like in the biggest moments, he's always the one doing it? Like he's always the one doing it. Whether it was in Omaha last year, running against the wall, or the slide at the plate. And that's another crazy thing, dude. There was another slide at the plate in this same exact game from the great Hunter Ensley in one of the biggest moments in the game. It's just what he does, dude. He is literally the most clutch player in college baseball. And it's really a shame that like the season's going the way it's going right now, because this is likely going to be Hunter Ensley's last year, and he is literally an all-time legend at Tennessee, and his legend continues to grow. We literally, without Liam Doyle, his first 7 innings, and Hunter Ensley finishing this game out, dude, we literally don't even have a chance in this series going forward in the rest of the weekend. So they were both just electric, man.
Absolutely. With Liam Doyle, I was going to bring up his double-digit strikeouts yet again. If I'm not mistaken, Austin, he's still, even after this weekend, still leading the country in strikeouts. So obviously the best pitcher in the country. And then, man, the great Hunter Ensley. We talked before we started recording tonight. We talked about Hunter Ensley, and I was talking about how, man, I thought Hunter Ensley was going to single-handedly will this team to victory this weekend and to finally give some life back to this team. But regardless of how the series went, yeah, you love to watch Hunter Ensley play baseball. You love to watch Liam Doyle play baseball. But with that being said, man, after Friday night, we hung on. Like you said, we almost let it slip, but we hung on. And then things just on Saturday and Sunday continue to just be dicey at best, if not downright just kind of sad. And that goes to Rhonda's point here in the chat. Rhonda says that Rhonda was there for the Saturday game. So it looks like Rhonda was in Lindsey Nelson this weekend. And she says, we have talent and effort, but I'm leaning towards it being mental errors. And I think that a lot of that is true in terms, or a lot of our issues are mental errors. I mean, we've already talked about the errors in general. We're making several errors a game at this point, fielding errors like that. But then also the bats still seem to. Well, I guess the bats heated up a little bit this past weekend, but still,
the pitching outside of Doyle, man, is just. I mean, it's just. Listen, Marcus Phillips had his worst game of the year, I think, in this Saturday game, and he just seems frustrated. Like he gets frustrated a little bit easily, Marcus Phillips. Like he kind of wears his emotions on his sleeve, and that kind of happened in this game as well. But I mean, yeah, Rhonda, that was a phenomenal point in the chat. It is mental errors, man. Like it's genuinely people making actual mental errors and leading to errors within the ball game that's costing us runs right now. We had 2 errors on the Saturday game and 3 errors on the Sunday game, which is just devastating. I mean, the Sunday game, you literally take those 3 errors out of the game and you're winning the baseball game. It's just like where it's at. And like you said, the bats heated up, but like right when the bats started to heat up on Saturday, it was like, I think it was the first game we lost all year, Blake, where we hit 2 or more home runs. That was the first game all year on Saturday that we lost like that. And it just speaks to the pitching woes, man. Like everyone came in and like just didn't look great. I will say AJ Russell was impressive. He kept us in it to end the game. He gave us 3.2 innings without giving up an earned a run. He actually probably had his best outing, which is actually encouraging because I think the only reason we use AJ Russell in this spot, Blake, was because we felt like we wouldn't have had a chance on Sunday. Like that, I think that was like where we were at with it. We were still close enough in this game where I think Tony threw out AJ Russell because he thought there was an opportunity to try to get this game, um, which is fair. I get that. I get why he made that decision, and he did keep us in it. We just weren't able to come back. It was too big of a deficit. Excuse me. But yeah, dude. I mean, the relievers are just it's rough, man. It's been rough. It's been rough all year. Dylan Lloyd gets a pass from me. Dylan Lloyd has still been solid most of the time. He hasn't been perfect, but he's been the best, I think, out of the relievers. But it kind of leads us into the Sunday game, which is really probably the most heartbreaking game of the year, where we're right there, man. We're right there. You have that rain delay, and then Andrew Fisher, does what Andrew Fisher does, hits a bomb, 2-run shot, makes it 5-6. It's 5-6 in the top of the ninth. Nate Snead is literally having his best game, Blake, having his best game of the season. There's no doubt about it. And then he had the guy at 1-2, and dude, this totally threw Nate Snead off. I feel like this guy did this on purpose. I think 100% he did. But the guy called for like timeout like twice. The batter calls for timeout one time, and then he goes to set, and then he's like, wait a second, I need another timeout. My glove is messed up. And wouldn't you know it, the very next pitch is a ball, and the very next pitch after that is a home run. Nate Snead gives up a home run on a 1-2 count, which is like, it's a 1-2 count. You don't even really have to throw a strike in that spot. But it was sad, man. So that gave them a 2-run lead, and we got the bases loaded in the ninth, Blake. The bottom of the ninth, the great Hunter Inslee does what he does, gets on base, of course he does, in the ninth inning to keep us in this game. And then Cannon Peebles strikes out, and the game's over. We leave 3 guys on in the ninth inning, and we lose this third game. It's kind of heartbreaking, man. Not gonna lie, it felt like It felt like this could have been a turning point in the season. Like if you come back from this game, you hit a grand slam or you hit a 3-run shot, which we actually came close to doing. But if you come back in this game, all of a sudden that leads into momentum for next week's series and in the SEC tournament. But now it's like you have this heart wrenching loss, man, where it's like, man, it's yet another series loss, and it's not good, man. It's not good.
Which with a heartbreaking loss that could, send the team into kind of further, I don't want to say despair, but, essentially it could make it worse on this team. But at the very least, like exactly like you said, it is robbing them of the momentum heading towards, we are barreling towards the postseason. I mean, we've
Yep.
got
One
one more
series
midweek
left.
game and then one more SEC series against arguably one of the best teams in the country in
Yep.
Arkansas. And so that's going to be a tough series to win on the road. And so, yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head that this is a missed opportunity for momentum heading towards the postseason. And that's what's most heartbreaking about it, especially because, again, man, I thought Hunter Inslee, as the leader on this team, was going to single-handedly will this team into a series victory. But we just came up short, man. And I still can't get past, I think it all kind of goes in together, what Rhonda said earlier about mental errors and kind of what I've said a little bit the past few weeks of there seems to be a certain energy that's lacking or something that is just kind of missing, there's some sort of kind of edge that's missing between this team and last year's team. Now, obviously last year's team was much better when it came to batting. And so obviously that is hurting us this season. But yeah, man, the pitching as well is just the lack of pitching depth is frustrating. And Rhonda talked about in the chat there. She says Vitella spoke on that with Marcus Phillips, and yeah, Vitella did say after yesterday's game or the Saturday game, he said, look, essentially he called out Phillips, saying that Phillips needs to get better at throwing out runners who are trying to steal bases. because
Yeah.
there was 8 bases stolen on Saturday.
Yeah.
That is that's crazy.
Yeah, man. It's like, I mean, that's just in football terms, it's like giving the team a free first down. It's like, there you go, have a first down. Why not? Like, just take it. And it's just, you can't give up free bases, man, and not and I like Phillips doesn't like throwing guys off like base, man. Like he doesn't like doing that because or picking guys off because in the Kentucky game, that completely frustrated him, dude. In the Kentucky series, it just them stealing bases. He got to the point where he wouldn't even look at the base runners stealing. He wouldn't even look at their way. He just let them take the base, and it's like, well, you got to at least try. You got to at least try to pick them off. You got to at least do something. Um, and like I said, I've been a defender of Marcus Phillips. I think he's been better than people have given him credit for because a lot of Tennessee fans that don't keep up with the whole series, they just see we lose and see Liam Doyle do his thing. They're like, oh well, it's Liam Doyle and nobody else. Well, Marcus Phillips has been a good pitcher all year, by the way. He's been good. He's just yesterday he wasn't good. Like that's fair to say. He wasn't good yesterday, and he was clearly frustrated by all the stolen bases. Like to your point, Blake, and yeah, 8 stolen bases ain't gonna cut it, man. Like you got to at least try to throw them off. Um, and yeah, and I agree with Rhonda. She's saying postseason is a new season. And yeah, they could end up helping us for sure. There's no doubt about that. Like that's the nice thing is that we're firmly going to be in the tournament. The question is now, will we host anything? We're definitely not hosting a super. The question is, will we even host a regional game? Which would be pretty disappointing if we don't even host the regionals. And we'll see how they look in the SEC tournament. It's just I am extremely worried about the pitching depth. I think the bats are heating up, like we talked about, Blake. I think the bats are heating up. And they show the thing is, I think they showed a lot of energy in this last game, man. It's just the airs. I don't. The thing is, like, I feel like the airs thing, like making the fielding errors, is just I don't. How do we know that's going to go away? I don't know if we
Right.
know that's going to go away. I don't think there's anything indicating that that's going to go away. I just don't think we're as good as a defensive team as we were last year. We definitely don't have as deep as a pitching staff as we did last year. Thankfully, we have Liam Doyle, right? Liam Doyle is like, okay, guaranteed win no matter what. Thank goodness for Liam Doyle, unless, of course, you blow it like you did in the LSU series. But besides that, usually Liam Doyle is a guaranteed victory. And that feels good. And it feels good that the bats are starting to heat up a bit. And like I said, like this literally could have been a series where it's a gritty win. You pull it out in the third game, the rubber match, and that leads into okay, now you've got momentum, right? Now you've got momentum heading into the postseason. And I would have felt much better heading into the postseason had we won this particular series against a rivalry team, and it was getting chippy all weekend. Man, high emotions all weekend long. So it would have been nice to win it. What I'm worried about is listen, we talk about in baseball all the time. Baseball is a little bit different. Like you lose a series in baseball, it's not the end of the world. If you lose a game or two in football, it literally could be the end of your season. Like it could actually end your season. That's not the case with baseball. But what I'm a little bit worried about is now Blake, it's 4 series losses in a row. It's 5 out of 6 series losses in a row. And we don't get swept in these series. I think that matters a little bit, but at the same time, man, it's like 4 in a row, man. That's tough. 4 in a row is tough. Like, and 5 out of the last 6 is even tougher. Like that's a lot of not winning series this year. So like we definitely have to tamper our expectations, and I think we've done that a long time ago, Blake. We already tampered our expectations this year. Do I think this team can still fight back and go to Omaha? Yes, because you'd rather get your bad games out during the regular season, right? You'd rather
Yeah.
get all the crap out during the regular season so you head into postseason play and you can potentially get hot again. But who knows, man? It's definitely concerning though. 4 series losses in a row. That's concerning.
Yeah, to Rhonda's last point there, is there such thing as a sports counselor? We might need a counselor, but honestly, the baseball team might need a counselor too, because I think you make an excellent point there, Austin. You know, just the mental slide, right? We're just in this crazy slump. I mean, I think this team is better than, regardless of anything else. I think this team, we can at least say this team is, even if it is not a the same caliber team as last year, it's still a better team than what they've been playing like,
I agree with
and
that. Yeah.
the results of these series. So Man, I hope Rhonda is hitting the nail on the head with her point there in the chat, and like you were talking about a second ago, that the postseason could be a brand new season, and that's I think what I'll personally end on with baseball is, hey, look, once we get to the postseason, if we can get past this mental slump, then who knows if maybe we can make something happen, make a run, and potentially get to Omaha, like you're saying. We
Agreed.
just got to get past these mental errors. So. Austin, any other final thoughts on the base Vols and this series against Vanderbilt?
No, man, I'm kind of right there with you. I think this team does have a ton of talent, man. I mean, we have a ton of talent. We have a ton of talent in the batting lineup. It's not as loaded as last year, but we definitely have talent there. I am still concerned. I don't know who's going to emerge as the pitcher that gets hot. Like it kind of seemed like Nate Snead was getting there until he gave up that solo shot in the ninth inning today. It's the Nate Snead experience to a certain extent, but yeah, man, I think. Listen, hopefully they can get hot before the postseason. We're going to see the SEC tournament is not going to be an easy feat. We'll see how they look in the tournament. Definitely don't expect to win it this year, just with our pitching depth on this team this season. But who knows, man? Maybe come postseason we can get the bats hot, pitching starts to get better, and we can make a run at Omaha again.
I sure hope so, man. I'm still hopeful for this team. Still love this baseball team, and still love Tony V. We definitely have a bright future in the baseball program, no doubt. So. Austin, tonight we've covered actually quite a bit. We covered some football news with the expanded college football playoff at the top of the show. So, folks, if you're just now joining us and you are here for the title, which is the expanded 16-team playoff, go back to the start of the video. We started with that discussion and how it could affect the Vols and how it affects the college football landscape. And then we talked about Brew McCoy retiring medically. Shout out to Brew McCoy. Love that guy. Gave a little bit of Brew McCoy love in the episode here. And then we had to do our duty and talk about these baseballs and this tough series loss to Vanderbilt on the road. So a lot covered tonight, Austin, but it was another fun episode, man.
It
It was
was.
good to be here and chat with everyone. We appreciate everyone who jumped in the chat. And Austin, man, we are going to cover the base Vols in the regular season one more time this year. We've got one more series coming up next weekend against Arkansas. Gonna be yet another tough series, so I'm not getting my hopes up, but we
Same
will
here.
we will cover them nonetheless.
We will.
So folks. Oh yeah, and we're going to continue to cover all volunteer sports. Rhonda says Lady Vol softball. Hey, we're going to have to get a few softball updates because honestly, the Lady Vol softball they could eventually go on to win a national championship this year because they are definitely one of the best teams in the country in softball. So
No question.
it's great to be the quintessential everything school, that is for sure. But folks, again, thank you all so much for joining us for this live episode. If you haven't already, please give the episode a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you're watching after the fact, please drop us a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think about the expanded playoff and what you think about our chances for the baseball team to get to Omaha this year. But regardless, folks, we are going to catch y'all on the other side of the Arkansas series. Until then, as always, baby, go Vols.
GBO.